In the heart of the dense, foreboding woods, there stood a cabin that had long been abandoned by its previous inhabitants. The trees loomed overhead like ancient sentinels, their branches creaking ominously in the chilly night breeze. As the pale moon cast eerie shadows on the forest floor, four friends, named Alex, Sarah, Tom, and Emily, set out on an ill-fated adventure. They had heard whispers from the locals about the cabin, tales of strange occurrences and supernatural phenomena. Curiosity and a sense of youthful bravado led them deep into the woods one cold, misty evening. Armed with flashlights and a bundle of firewood, they made their way through the labyrinthine forest, navigating the winding paths and twisted routes. The journey was fraught with eerie sounds and unsettling rustles in the underbrush, but they pressed on, determined to reach their destination. The air grew colder, and the moon shone brighter, casting an eerie glow on the trees. It was then they stumbled upon the cabin, its time-worn walls shrouded in shadows. Upon entering, the friends were greeted by the stifling smell of decay and rotting wood. The atmosphere inside was heavy, thick with the weight of history and an unspoken malevolence. The only source of light was the flickering glow of their flashlight beams. As they explored, they discovered the cabin was filled with relics of the past, old, dusty furniture, broken dishes, and torn curtains that swayed gently in the cold breeze. A large, ornate mirror in the corner caught their attention. It was tarnished and cracked, its surface reflecting distorted images. As they inspected the mirror, they began to hear whispers in the wind. It was as if the very forest outside was trying to communicate with them. Sarah, the most adventurous of the group, dared to speak to the mirror. "Is there anyone here?" she asked, her voice trembling. The room suddenly grew colder, and the whispers grew louder. Emily, a skeptic by nature, began to feel a chill run down her spine. Tom, a budding photographer, raised his camera to capture the moment. Just as the flash went off, the room was filled with a deafening shriek that sent shivers down their spines. Startled, the friends turned to flee, but the cabin had other plans. The door slammed shut with a resounding thud, and the windows rattled as if trying to escape. The mirror began to crack further, each fracture emitting an anguished cry that seemed to echo through the very walls of the cabin. They were trapped, surrounded by the inexplicable and the supernatural. The friends huddled together, their flashlights flickering as ghostly apparitions emerged from the shadows. Torn, mangled figures of the cabin's former residents materialized, their eyes hollow and filled with despair. It was a nightmarish ordeal as the cabin's history and the anguish of its former inhabitants consumed them. Alex, Sarah, Tom, and Emily clung to each other, trying to resist the tormenting spirits. Hours passed, and just as dawn broke, the cabin's grip on them weakened. The door creaked open, and the windows stopped, their ominous rattling. The spirits, as if satisfied, began to fade into nothingness. The friends, shaken and traumatized, stumbled out of the cabin and back into the cold, forgiving embrace of the woods. They never spoke of that night to anyone, for they knew no one would believe their terrifying encounter. The cabin remained standing, a relic of the past, its dark secrets still hidden within its decaying walls. The friends had learned a lesson that night, one that would haunt them for the rest of their lives sometimes. Curiosity can lead to horrors best left untouched in the heart of the woods. Deep in the heart of the dense, uncharted woods, a place known to the locals as the Enchanted Thicket, a sense of foreboding always hung in the air. The trees, thick with ivy and moss, seemed to reach out with their gnarled branches as if warning any intruders to stay away. Few ventured into this mysterious forest, and even fewer returned. One crisp autumn day, a group of 5, Friendsmere, Jake, Emily, Ben, and Sarah decided to challenge the legends surrounding the Enchanted Thicket. Armed with camping gear and a daring spirit, they set out on a hiking trip into the heart of the woods, determined to uncover the secrets hidden within. As they ventured deeper, the forest grew darker and more oppressive. The rustling leaves and eerie cries of distant Animals created an unsettling ambience. The canopy above seemed to block out the sun, casting the forest floor into perpetual twilight. The friends pressed on, determined to reach the heart of the thicket. Night fell swiftly, and they set up camp in a small clearing. They kindled a campfire, its flickering flames casting eerie, dancing shadows on the surrounding trees. Emily, a true believer in the supernatural, began sharing stories of the thicket's cursed past. Tales of lost souls who had wandered in and never returned. Just as they chuckled at the stories, a soft, melodic humming filled the air, sending a chill down their spines. They exchanged nervous glances, but Mia, the group's daredevil, decided to investigate. She followed the sound deeper into the woods, the others reluctantly trailing behind. The humming led them to a small, moonlit glade. In the center stood an ancient, gnarled oak tree with a gaping, hollow cavity at its base. The eerie humming was now a haunting lullaby, and it emanated from within the tree. With trembling hands, Mia reached into the hollow, pulling out a weathered, leather-bound book. The pages were filled with cryptic symbols and arcane writings, incomprehensible yet strangely alluring. The friends, drawn to the book's secrets, felt an irresistible urge to decipher its contents. As they took turns poring over the pages, an unseen presence closed in on them. The air grew colder, and a spectral fog enveloped the glade, obscuring the path back to their camp. Panic set in as they realized they were trapped. Their surroundings transformed into a nightmarish realm. The forest itself seemed to come alive. Branches reached out like skeletal arms, and the trees whispered in eerie, unintelligible voices. Shadows danced in the darkness, taking on sinister, distorted shapes. The friends were no longer alone in the thicket. The lost souls of those who had ventured before them now surrounded them. Desperation and fear gripped the group, and they scrambled to escape the cursed glade. They tore through the ghostly, grasping branches, their hearts pounding in their chests. Emily clutched the mysterious book tightly, her eyes wide with terror. As they finally broke free, they stumbled upon the remnants of their camp, now shrouded in an ethereal mist. But the forest had one more twisted surprise for them. The ancient oak tree, seemingly alive, began to uproot itself, its massive roots curling and twisting like serpents. In a final, desperate act, Emily clutched the book and began to chant an incantation she had deciphered from its pages. The ancient oak tree shuddered and, with a thunderous crash, fell to the ground, releasing them from its curse. Exhausted and terrified, the friends fled the enchanted thicket, never looking back. They left behind the cursed forest and its ancient secrets, haunted by the memory of that harrowing night. To this day, they warn others never to venture into the heart of the enchanted thicket, for once it ensnares you in its web of mysteries, escaping with your life intact becomes an ordeal of horrors unimaginable.